Hey guys, Dr-DoobieHowsHer again. We're going to go ahead and go over the Magicka Nightblade setup today. I'm going to go over several gear setups, several rotations that you could use, as well as the Asylum staff rotation. So let's go ahead and start with gear. Currently I'm running an Inferno staff of Infallible Aether. We do have a shock enchant on it. You always want to go infused on your front bar. The enchants just do so much damage when they're infused and they're proccing as much as they do. The only bad thing is that you definitely have to charge your weapons quite a bit. We're running a Maelstrom Inferno staff on the back bar, also infused, and we're running the weapon damage enchantment. The Maelstrom staff is extremely strong. The additional damage that you get from light attacks, especially on a Magicka Nightblade, where light attacks are key to the rotation. If you don't have a Maelstrom staff, you can use any crafted staff, or you can use another Infallible Aether staff, but I would definitely recommend getting into Maelstrom and getting the Maelstrom staff, because it is required pretty much for getting over 40k DPS. You could also run a Maelstrom Lightning staff. The difference in damage in a trial is better to run an Inferno staff, in my opinion. Leave the lightning for Sorks. But I have found that in some solo content that a lightning staff does actually out damage running the Inferno staff. The lightning staff, same thing, infused with the weapon damage enchantment on it. We're going to go down to monster set. So I currently have on Lambris. I've found that I've parsed better with Lambris. But at the same time, you can always run Valken Scoria. It gives you a little bit more health, so it'll help you survive a little bit better. And Valken Scoria also does more than enough damage as well. The parse difference between Valken Scoria and Lambris is not very much. But I definitely recommend that if you're going to run Force Pulse, definitely go Lambris over Valken Scoria. As well as, if you're going to run a lightning staff, I would also run Lambris over Valken Scoria as well, having the multiples of different damage types going out. Lambris will proc quite often. So currently, due to running Double Flame, I'm running Burning Spellweave. Max mag, spell damage, spell crit, and it actually procs surprisingly a lot with just a Flame Wall and Double Flame staffs. I run it both in Trials and in Veteran Maelstrom Arena. It is very good, very strong, and definitely worth running over, say, Julianos. If you don't have Burning Spellweave, Julianos will substitute just fine. The difference in parses, again, are very minimal. If you are running a lightning staff on your back bar, I would definitely recommend running Julianos over Burning Spellweave, because you're not going to get the proc from Burning Spellweave very often if you're not running a Flame Wall. So if you're going to run a lightning wall, make sure that you run Julianos over Burning Spellweave. So as you can see, my legs are infused, but you want to try to go all divines. I just haven't gotten around to trait changing the legs yet. And then we're running 3-piece Infallible Aether jewelry. Now, one thing you can do as well is you can run the Asylum's Perfected Inferno staff on the front bar, switch out Swallow Soul for Force Pulse, and then use Force Pulse in the rotation, which I will show here, as well as the Swallow Soul rotation. Now, when you switch out Aether for the Asylum staff, you could run Willpower, which will actually parse slightly higher, or you can stick to Aether or Moondancer. Either one of those three. The difference in parses is not very much between the three sets. If you were going to go with either Moondancer or Infallible Aether, though, on a Magicka Nightblade, I would definitely go with Infallible Aether, because the spell crit is definitely a little bit more worth it to the Magicka Nightblade versus Moondancer, which would be a little bit better for a Sork. So let's go ahead and go over some base stats here. We're looking at about 43.5 Magicka, 18k health on the front bar. My spell damage is a little bit low. I currently have on the Lover, just because I was just running Veteran Maelstrom. So you definitely want to run the Apprentice. The Lover, again, as I mentioned in my Sorc video, is great for solo content or even Asylum Sanctorium, because of the fact that debuffs are not put up in Asylum Sanctorium as well as they are in other content. And the Lover is great for solo content or 4-man content as well. We are a Vampire. Again, right now I'm currently stage 4, but usually in anything that's going to have any sort of fire damage, you want to drop that down to stage 3. I'm also currently running max health and max Magicka food. When you're running the Swallow or Funnel Health rotation, max health and max Magicka food is perfectly okay, especially with Siphoning Strikes. Your Magicka regen is pretty good on a Magicka Nightblade. If you're having troubles with a sustainment, I would switch to either Witch Mother's Brew or Clockwork Citrus Fillet. And then if you decide to run the Force Pulse rotation, you're definitely going to need to switch to Recovery Food, because Force Pulse costs a lot more than Swallow Soul, and it will drain your Magicka very quickly, even with Siphoning Strikes. So let's go ahead and go over champion points here. Again, I'm only going to go over the green tree and the blue tree, because red tree changes per trial, so I don't want to just give you a random setup and you stick to that and end up getting into a little bit of trouble here in a trial that it's not set for. So I currently have 24 points into Warlord to reduce the cost of Break Free, 75 points into Arcanist, and 75 points into Tenacity. You could run the extra 25 points and go up to 15%, but for 25 points you're only receiving 1% recovery and 1% Magicka return from heavy attacks, so it's not really worth running those 25 points. They're better placed elsewhere. I also have 28 points into Shadow Ward, and then 28 points into Tumbling to reduce both my roll dodge and my block cost. So we go over to blue. I've got 40 points into Elfborn, 37 in Elemental Expert, 30 in Spell Erosion. We have quite a lot of points in Master at Arms. We have 48 points in the Master at Arms. A lot of damage coming from Magicka Nightblade is single target, so you're going to benefit a lot from Master at Arms. Your Spectral Bows, your Swallow Soul, your Force Pulse, if you run that, a lot of stuff comes from Master at Arms, and that's where the majority of your damage comes from. We also have Thaumaturge, which 75 points to make sure that we get the Exploiter passive to increase our damage done against off-balance enemies. So let's go ahead and go over skills. So I currently have on Refreshing Path. Again, I was running Veteran Maelstrom Arena. You want to make sure that you run Twisting Path, which is the other morph, and it does a lot more damage. Refreshing Path, though, is great for 4-man content, like Veteran Dragonstar Arena, or solo content, Veteran Maelstrom Arena. I also have on Swallow Soul, which is a very powerful single target attack. It's also your main spammable. You receive more healing from Swallow Soul. You could also run the Funnel Health morph, which the damage from Funnel Health is the same. It's just Funnel Health heals everybody else instead of you more. So it really depends on your group and what you want to do. But I definitely recommend Funnel Health. Once again, I was running Maelstrom, so I would like a little bit more healing for myself in there. Impale is your execute. It is extremely strong. Nightblades probably have the highest execute damage out of any class, and once you hit 25%, you're going to switch your Swallow Soul out for Impale. We're running Merciless Resolve. Not only do we get Minor Berserk at all times from this, every 5 light attacks that we do, we get an extremely powerful Spectral Bow. So you definitely want to make sure that you're casting that bow every opportunity that you get. Even during execute, you want to hit that, because a lot of times it'll hit harder than the execute itself. We have on Inner Light. So Inner Light is, one, it gives you max Magicka, and it gives you spell crit rating. So we're getting a lot more damage having this slotted. And on a Magicka Nightblade, I currently have on Trap, just due to Maelstrom. But on a Magicka Nightblade, you can double bar Inner Light because you have the bar space. So on the front bar, we are running Soul Harvest. One, it increases the amount of ultimate you return. Anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. On top of it, if you're using this, say you're running Master Architect, which is another very good set for Magicka Nightblades because of the fact that you can get ultimate back so quickly, you can help buff the group, as well as when you use Soul Harvest, you increase your damage by 20% on that target for 6 seconds. So on the back bar, we have Harness Magicka. You can also run Dampen Magic, which is the other morph of Harness. It is a slightly stronger shield, as long as you're not having issues with recovery. If you have issues with Magicka recovery, I would definitely run Harness Magicka over Dampen Magic, because you gain Magicka back as your shield is damaged. We're running Blockade of Fire. Again, we are running Elemental Blockade, not Unstable. Crippling Grasp. It's a very powerful single target dot. You also gain movement speed, and you reduce enemies' movement speed, so it helps, and you immobilize them, so it helps a lot in solo content. But then during trials, it is definitely a very powerful single target dot. We're running siphoning attacks. So siphoning attacks, you want to make sure you keep it up, and then you want to wait until it runs out. Because if you look there at the end, you restore an additional 4,270 Magicka when it ends. So make sure that you allow siphoning attacks to completely run out before you recast it. Again, we have Inner Light on both bars, increasing our max Magicka by 5%. And then we are running Elemental Rage on the back bar. You definitely want Elemental Rage. You do not want the Eye of the Storm. This one you can cast at a target location instead of it being cast directly above you. So let's go over some important passives for a Nightblade. This one's more important for solo content. When you use your Execute, and as long as that enemy dies within a few seconds, you return a little bit of Magicka or stamina, whichever maximum is higher. So that definitely helps a lot with recovery in solo content. You gain weapon critical and spell critical for each assassination ability slotted. So if you see here, I'm getting an extra 1300 critical rating on my front bar, which is relatively important for damage. We also have Hemorrhage. It increases our critical damage done by 10%. And dealing critical damage, we get Minor Savagery for us and the whole group, increasing our weapon critical by 657. That is up at almost all times when you're in combat on a Nightblade. So all the shadow passive, you definitely want to make sure you have. One, it increases the duration of your twisting path. You gain a little bit of extra health slotted just for having a shadow ability slotted. You gain both major resolve and major ward, so it increases your physical and spell resistance. And then it also increases your recovery of all 3 stats. And siphoning is the big one. You gain 20 points of ultimate for every time you drink a potion. You gain max Magicka with siphoning ability slotted. Increases your healing done for siphoning ability slotted, and casting a siphoning ability also generates more ultimate. This is why Nightblades can generate ultimate so fast. So we're going to go ahead and go over the basic 2-bow rotation. I'm going to show this slow, so I'm going to be recasting Merciless just to show it, and then I'll show it slightly faster. So on a 2-bow rotation, I do have ultimate, so we'll go ahead and drop it. You're going to pre-buff with Siphoning and Merciless. You're going to swap. You're going to drop your ultimate, pop a potion, light attack, blockade, light attack, crippling grasp. Then you're going to bar swap, light attack, twisting path, light attack, swallow soul, light attack, cast a bow. You're not actually going to recast it at that point. I'm just doing that to show the rest of the rotation. You want to try to get 2 bow procs off per Merciless cast. So then you're going to do 1, 2 swallow souls after you cast the bow with light attacks in between. You're going to recast twisting path, recast blockade, and recast that. By then, siphoning attacks may have run out, so if it has, you want to recast that. Bar swap again, light attack, and then you're going to pop another bow. So we'll go ahead and go over that in full speed. one bow, 1, 2, reapply my ground dots, and 2 bows. At this point, this is where you're going to want to reapply Merciless Resolve, and then you just continue that rotation. You can do one of a few things. Definitely drop your Destra ult in the beginning, and now you can save up for another Destra ultimate in like a big trials fight, or if you're running Master Architect, you can use Soul Harvest every time it's up. One, to buff the group, as well to increase your damage significantly. So now we'll go over the slightly more complicated 3-bow rotation. This is hard to use in some trials just due to lag on console. It's a lot of fun to play with on a dummy. But there are a few fights that I've found in trials that, as long as you're not lagging too badly, it's still more than possible to use, and it does significantly increase your damage. So for 3-bow, you've got to make sure that as soon as you hit that 5th light attack, you're basically going to be casting the 5th light attack, and then you're going to hit the bow, the spectral bow. And then immediately afterwards, you're going to continue the rotation. There's no room for error with this whatsoever. So you have to make sure that after every 5th light attack, you're casting the bow. There's no room to do a 6th light attack or a 7th light attack in between skills. And that sometimes causes you, when you might swap to your back bar to apply blockade, you're going to need to swap to your front bar, light attack, hit a spectral bow, swap back, light attack, then finish reapplying your back bar dots, and then swap back and continue your rotation. So it can be a little bit more complicated, and you have to be able to pay attention to your buff timers while still being able to be aware during a trials fight. So we'll go ahead and go over the 3-bow so you can see it. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. And then you're going to recast Merciless Resolve and continue. So again, that can get a little bit hairy in a trial if you're lagging. Light attacks don't like to go off in a trial, so I definitely recommend sticking with 2-bow. But if you would like, there is the 3-bow rotation there. I also have it typed out in my build if you're part of my Discord. So I will now go ahead and go over the Asylum rotation. We're just going to go ahead and switch to Willpower. Go up, and we'll switch to the Asylum Staff. And we will replace Swallow Soul with Force Pulse. Now the Asylum Staff is incredibly strong, because, especially if you have the Perfected, because once you cast 2, you get all 3 status effects up constantly. So as long as you're casting 2 of those per rotation, you're going to maintain those status effects, which will significantly increase the damage for the group and significantly increase your damage as well. So the Asylum rotation is no different than the 2-bow rotation. It's the exact same thing. You're just replacing Swallow Soul with Force Pulse. So you're going to pre-buff. You're going to cast Blockade, Crippling, Refreshing, Force Pulse, Bow. Then you're going to do 2 more Force Pulses, and then reapply your dots. And then when you swap back, you'll have another bow. So it does not change. The only thing with the Asylum Staff is Force Pulse, and I'll show you here. So the base cost of Force Pulse is 2,430 Magicka. And then you go down and you look at Swallow Soul, it's only 1,700 Magicka to cost Swallow Soul. So you're definitely going to want to run Recovery Food, even with siphoning attacks on if you're going to run the Asylum Staff rotation. So just to refresh here, I will go back over the basic 2-bow rotation, as I recommend that most Nightblades, whether you're new or even you've run a Nightblade for a while and you're just having a little bit of trouble, I would definitely recommend running the 2-bow rotation. Especially in trials, because in trials, when light attacks don't always go off, there's a lot of room for error to still get your 2 bows off in one proc. So we're going to pre-buff, we're going to drop our ultimate, pop a potion, apply our dots. I still have Force Pulse on, but that's fine. you're going to recast Merciless. As you see, siphoning just fell off. I'm going to reapply it. And as you can see, 2 bows per cast on Merciless. And you can see I had a few seconds left over, as well as I did a few extra light attacks in there, so it leaves you room for error. I recommend in a trial especially that once you hit that 5th light attack, try, if you're on the bow bar, make sure you hit it. Don't do an extra skill in there, just to leave yourself a little bit more room for accounts of lag or having to move or dodge to avoid a mechanic. So hopefully that helped everybody. This is the Magicka Nightblade build. Go ahead, leave any comments, hit subscribe, and let me know what you guys think. Thank you.